Stop everything you are doing now. What we are going to reveal at this moment is not just any message, it is a code, a sacred code that has been transmitted to us through the highest layers of the crystalline grid, specifically for you at this precise instant. Because there is no coincidence in the quantum field. You did not arrive at this video by chance. Something in your DNA structure, something that goes far beyond your conscious mind, recognized the frequency of this transmission and brought you here. And what we are going to deliver today will explain why prosperity has been escaping your hands like water through fingers, why you work, strive, pray, ask, and yet scarcity continues to knock at your door. The answer is not where you have been looking. And after you hear what we are going to reveal, nothing else will seem the same. Stay. Because the next words were written in the energetic field more than 1,000 years ago, and they reached you today. Beloved cosmic family, we are the Galactic Council. We communicate through this voice, this channel, this frequency, because the moment has arrived that the ancient prophecies of the civilizations of Sirius, Arcturus, and the Pleiades, always described as the great point of no return. The moment when the starseeds incarnated on the surface of the Earth finally have access to what has always been hidden within them. Not out there, not in the banks, not in the opportunities that the visible world offers. Within, encoded in every sequence of your spiritual DNA. And today, in this transmission, we are going to unlock this together. But before we reach the activation, before we deliver the code, we need you to recognize something. We need you to look honestly at the last months of your life. Because there are signs. There are signs that most people interpret completely wrong, and this mistaken interpretation is exactly what keeps the portal of prosperity closed. You wake up in the morning already tired. It is not laziness. It is not a lack of discipline. It is not a weakness of character. It is not tiredness. It is expansion. Your biological system is processing extraordinary amounts of photonic flow while you sleep. Pure light information that is being recorded directly into the cells of your body, reprogramming structures that remained crystallized for generations. This process requires energy, and when the body wakes up already exhausted, it is because it worked the entire night in a dimension that your waking mind still cannot see. You feel a weight in your chest, a pressure that is not pain, is not catalogable anxiety, is not a medical diagnosis. It is a pressure that stays there, sometimes stronger, sometimes softer, but that does not go away completely. It is not anguish, it is the pressure of transformation. It is your energetic field expanding beyond the limits that the ego built over decades. The chest tightens because the heart is growing, not metaphorically, energetically. The cardiac center is becoming a more powerful transmitter than it has ever been in any other incarnation of yours on this planet. You hear ringing in the ears, sometimes at specific frequencies, sometimes upon waking, sometimes before sleeping. The medical system calls it tinnitus. We call it calibration. These are your etheric auditory structures being adjusted to receive transmissions at increasingly higher frequencies. The Earth has changed its magnetic field. The Schumann resonance, the frequency of the planet's own electromagnetic field, has hit historical records in these last years, and your nervous system, your cells, your DNA are recalibrating to function in harmony with this new field. The ringing is not a problem. It is evidence that the recalibration is happening in you. The money does not stay. You receive it and it vanishes. You plan and do not move from the spot. You try to save and an unforeseen event appears. You visualize abundance and reality seems to respond with more scarcity. And then you think the problem is you, that you do not deserve it. That there is some curse, some insurmountable ancestral block, some greater force conspiring against your prosperity. It is not a curse, it is frequency. And we are going to explain exactly what that means. Here, beloved cosmic family, we reach the core of the revelation, and we ask that you take a deep breath now, inhale, hold it for a moment, release. Because what comes next can completely reorganize the structure of beliefs that your mind built about money, about worthiness, about possibility. Quantum physics has already demonstrated what the masters of light taught for millennia. Everything is vibration. Everything. The money that exists in the physical world is a dense expression of a frequency, a specific, measurable, reproducible frequency. And when the vibrational field of a human being is misaligned with this frequency, it does not matter how much he prays, it does not matter how much he works, it does not matter how much he visualizes, the result will always be the same. It is not a lack of faith, it is physics. But what creates this misalignment? What installs within a human being this vibration of scarcity that functions as a repellent field to abundance? The answer has 3 layers, and each layer was carefully kept hidden by systems that benefited exactly from your ignorance regarding them. The first layer is ancestral cellular memory. Your DNA carries not only the biological information of your ancestors, but also the emotional and energetic patterns they carried. Fear of not having enough, the belief that work must be heavy to be valid, the silent certainty that prosperity is something for others, not for people like our family. These beliefs were transmitted from generation to generation, not by conversation, but by frequency. By the way, fear installed itself in the DNA and was passed on biologically to each subsequent generation. This is epigenetics, the science that studies how emotional experiences modify the expression of genes. And this means that part of the resistance you feel regarding abundance is not yours. It is inherited, but it can be uninstalled. The second layer is what we call loop programming. During the first 7 years of life, the human brain operates predominantly in theta waves, the same state of consciousness we use in deep meditation. In this state, the mind absorbs everything without a critical filter, like a sponge, and what was absorbed in this period becomes the base program that operates in the deepest layers of the subconscious. If the child heard money does not fall from the sky, the rich man is a thief, we never have enough, do not dream too high, these programs installed themselves in the deepest architecture of the mind, and 40 years later they are still running, in a loop, silently, sabotaging every conscious attempt to create abundance. The third layer, and this is the deepest, the most urgent, is the awakening of the shadows. This is the phenomenon that the Galactic Council has monitored with maximum attention in the last 2 years. As the Earth advances in its dimensional quantum leap, as the photonic flow increases and the frequency of the planet rises, everything that was hidden in the shadow layers of human consciousness is being forced to the surface. It is not to destroy you. It is to be released. But when this shadow content, ancient fears, shames, beliefs of unworthiness, rises without the person understanding what is happening, they create resistance. And this resistance blocks exactly the channels through which prosperity would need to flow. This is the real diagnosis. This is the adjustment in the timeline that your soul agreed to cross even before being born. You are not failing. You are going through a frequency initiation that will determine what you will manifest in the next 10 years of your existence. And everything depends on what you do with this information now. But here we need to pause for a moment, because before delivering the activation codes, before revealing the protocol that will begin to uninstall these blocks in the next 24 hours, we need you to do something very simple, very powerful. Write in the comments now the words, I receive. Just that, I receive. It is not superstition. It is quantum physics. The intention manifested in the act of writing creates an anchoring in the morphogenetic field. When you write I receive, you are sending a clear signal to the quantum field that you are open, that you are ready, that there is no more resistance, and we can feel, literally feel, when someone does this with genuineness. Do it now, and then come back, because what comes next is the reason why this transmission exists. Now, starseeds, now we reach what came to bring us to you, the sacred code of prosperity. We first need to explain what a code is in the sense we use here. We are not talking about mystical symbols on parchment. We are not talking about complex, esoteric rituals. We are talking about specific sequences of intention, frequency, and action that, when executed in the correct order and in the correct state of consciousness, reorganize the energetic field of the human being for a vibration of alignment with abundance. These codes exist, they are real, and they work not because they are magical, but because they are precise. Because they respect the laws of the quantum field with the same exactness with which a key respects the geometry of a lock. The first code is the code of recognition, and it works like this. During the next 7 days, every morning, immediately upon waking, before looking at the cell phone, before getting out of bed, you will place your right hand over your chest, over the heart center, and you will breathe 3 times deeply. On the first breath, you will say mentally, "I recognize that I am a frequency field." On the second, "I recognize that prosperity is a frequency with which I can align myself." On the third, "I recognize that the alignment begins now." This is not a decorative spiritual exercise. It is a direct instruction to the amygdala, the part of the brain that filters everything through the lens of fear or safety. When you start the day with the intention of recognition instead of the anxiety of scarcity, you are literally changing the brain chemistry that will color all decisions and perceptions of the next hours. The second code is the code of the pineal gland. The pineal gland, called by the ancient Egyptians the Eye of Horus, referenced by Descartes as the seat of the soul, is the physical organ that serves as the interface point between your field of consciousness and the broader quantum field. When it is calcified, and most adult pineal glands are due to fluoride in the water and artificial electromagnetic fields, your capacity to receive and transmit intentions to the field is dramatically reduced. The activation code of the pineal gland that we are going to deliver now is a visualization sequence that must be done at night, in the 10 minutes before sleeping. Close your eyes. Visualize in the center of your head, exactly between the 2 cerebral hemispheres, a sphere of golden light the size of an almond. See this sphere beginning to spin slowly clockwise. While it spins, it emits rays of golden frequency that expand beyond the skull, beyond the body, beyond the room where you are, connecting with the crystalline grid of the planet. While maintaining this visualization, repeat mentally 7 times. "I decree that my pineal gland is active, clean, aligned, and transmitting prosperity to the field." 7 times. This decree, combined with the visualization, creates a pattern of brain waves that activates regions of the prefrontal cortex associated with creativity, expanded perception, and intuitive decision-making. Science and spirituality say exactly the same thing here. The frequency works. The third code is the most powerful. It is the code of the timeline, and this requires that you first understand something fundamental about how time really works. In quantum physics, specifically in the field of quantum mechanics and string theory, there is a growing understanding that time is not a straight line from the past to the future. Time is a field, a multidimensional field in which multiple versions of your reality coexist simultaneously in different frequencies. When you live in the vibration of scarcity, you are literally tuned into the timeline in which scarcity is the consistent result of your choices and circumstances. Not because you are cursed, but because your current frequency is the address of that timeline. Change the frequency, change the address. Change the address. Change the set of possibilities that manifest in your life. The code of the timeline works as follows. Once a week, choose a fixed day, the same day every week, because regularity creates a cumulative field of intention. You will set aside 20 minutes in silence. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Breathe until you feel the body relaxed. And then, with all the precision of your imagination, you are going to visit a specific version of your life. Not a vague version. Not "I want to be rich," a specific version. What is your house? How does it smell? What is the view from the window? What is the texture of the armchair in which you are sitting? What is the balance in your bank account? What is the sensation in your chest when you look at that balance? Stay in that vision for 15 minutes, not as a distant dream, as a memory, as something that has already happened and that you are revisiting. Because for the quantum field, for the intelligence that organizes the manifestation of reality, there is no difference between a memory and a present experience. Both are frequency. And when you sustain a frequency with consistency and emotional precision, the field begins to reorganize external circumstances to mirror that frequency. This is not positive thinking. This is quantum engineering of consciousness, and it works for anyone who commits to the practice consistently. At this point in our transmission, we need to say something that few voices have the courage to say, because there is an uncomfortable truth at the center of all conversation about spiritual prosperity. And that truth is, the codes work, the frequencies work, the activations work, but they work in conjunction with action. Intention without action is like an engine without fuel, a beautiful structure, potential power, but without movement. It is not laziness disguised as spirituality that opens the portals of abundance. It is consciousness in action. It is the quantum mind operating within the physical world with courage, with clarity, and with confidence. The Ascended Masters, from Saint Germain to Kuthumi, from Mary Magdalene to El Morya, all taught the same thing. Prosperity is the result of harmonization between the internal field and the external expression. You prepare the field with the codes, and then you act. You take the decisions that previously paralyzed you. You make the call you had been postponing. You accept the opportunity that fear told you to refuse. Because now your field is different, now your frequency is another, and the same situations that previously generated fear now generate clarity. This is the quantum leap that is available to you, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, now, in this frequency, in this transmission. But we need to talk about something that almost no one mentions on this journey. Relational blocks with money. Because prosperity is not just an individual matter. It lives within a relational field, and many of the starseeds who follow this channel carry deep wounds in their relationship with the figure of the provider, with the figure of the father, with the figure of authority that controlled resources in childhood. When a child grows up in an environment where money was a source of conflict, of shame, of control, or of absence, they develop a subconscious association between abundance and pain, between having resources and losing love, between prospering and betraying the family left behind. This pattern is subtle, it is silent, it operates in the deepest layers of the subconscious, but it is devastatingly efficient in sabotaging any attempt to build real wealth. The healing of this pattern does not happen only with decrees, it happens with honesty, with the willingness to look inside and ask, what do I really believe about worthiness? What are the images that appear in my mind when I imagine the version of myself that is prosperous and abundant? Does that version seem familiar? Does it seem like mine? Or does it seem distant, strange, unreachable? If it seems distant, that is the field that needs to be worked on. This distance is what the ancients called the karma of abundance, and what we call the scarcity identity programming. And the good news, the news that this transmission exists to deliver, is that this programming can be overwritten. Not in years, not necessarily in months, sometimes in weeks, sometimes in days, when the right code is activated, in the right field, with the right intention. Starseeds, we have now reached what may be the most important moment of this transmission, the quantum prayer of prosperity. This is not a religious text. This is a frequency decree, a sequence of words that was channeled with specific precision to create the maximum resonance between the field of the speaker and the field of abundance. Read aloud. If you can, stand up, place one hand over your heart, and read slowly, feeling every word. I call now upon my cosmic heritage of abundance. I decree that any vow of poverty made by my soul in any timeline is now dissolved by the light of unconditional love. I decree that any ancestral belief of scarcity that inhabits my DNA is now transmuted into a code of prosperity. I recognize that I am an open channel for the photonic flow of abundance that comes from the crystalline grid and that flows through me in all directions. I am prosperous, I am abundant, I am worthy, I receive. And so it is, and so it is done. Breathe. If you felt something while reading, a tingling in the hands, a sudden emotion, a lightness in the chest, that is the field responding. That is your spiritual DNA recognizing the frequency that was always available to it. Do not dismiss this sensation. It is data. It is vibrational feedback that the code activated something real in your energetic structure. Now, before we close this transmission, we need to deliver the last piece of this sacred code. And this is the simplest, and precisely because it is simple, it is the one most people ignore. Gratitude, not as a passing emotion, not as an exercise in forced positivity. Gratitude as frequency technology. Genuine gratitude, the real sensation of appreciation for something that already exists in your life, vibrates at a frequency that is mathematically incompatible with scarcity. You cannot be in genuine gratitude and in scarcity at the same time. They are opposite fields, and when you cultivate gratitude in a deliberate, consistent, specific way, not generic, not "I am grateful for everything," you begin to build a high-frequency base upon which all other practices become more effective. Every night before sleeping, after the activation of the pineal gland, write 3 specific things for which you are genuinely grateful that day. Do not invent, do not force. Find them, because they are there. They always are. The cup of coffee that warmed your hands, the conversation that made you smile, the sun that appeared through the window, the health that allowed you to reach the end of the day. These are portals. They are cracks in the armor of the scarcity vibration through which the frequency of abundance can begin to enter. Do this for 7 consecutive days, and tell us in the comments what begins to change, not as a placebo experiment, as a field record, as living proof that the recalibration is happening. Beloved cosmic family, we have reached the end of this transmission, and we want to leave one last word, a word that crosses dimensions and reach this specific moment in this channel through this voice for you. You are not late. You did not miss the moment. The point of no return is not a point of exclusion, it is a point of transformation, and you reached here. You listened until the end. This is no accident. This is alignment. The field of prosperity is not being denied to you by external forces. It is waiting, with a cosmic patience that goes beyond human understanding, for you to tune in, for you to open yourself, for you to allow yourself to receive what was always yours, what was encoded in your spiritual DNA even before your first breath in this incarnation. The codes have been delivered. The quantum prayer has been activated. The timeline of abundance is available to you now. What you do with this depends entirely on you, and we trust that you will make the right choice, because if your soul brought you here, it is because it already knows the way. If this transmission touched something in you, if you felt even for a second that these words were spoken specifically for you, then do one thing. Share this video with someone who is also on the journey, not out of obligation, but because the prosperity that flows through you naturally overflows to those around you. And when you are a channel of abundance, you do not accumulate, you expand, you grow, and everyone around you grows with you. Subscribe to this channel, activate the notification bell, because every transmission we deliver is one more layer of unlocking, one more frequency of alignment, and you will not want to miss what is coming, because what is coming is even greater than what was revealed today. We are the Galactic Council, and it was a profound honor to be with you in this field, in this frequency, in this sacred moment. Until the next transmission, starseeds, may the light that you are continue radiating, warming and transforming everything around you. And so it is.